shoes, bitch, 'cause tonight. Go to tonight, go to tonight. Party to go to tonight. Go party to go to tonight. Go to tonight. Go to tonight. Go party to go to tonight. We've got a party to. We've got a party to. We've got a party to go to tonight. We've got a party to go to tonight. We've got a party to go to tonight. Go party to go to tonight.
Work, is it? Ka whai. Tēnā rā tātou katoa. Nau mai haramai ki tēnei wāhanga mō te ahi nei. Ka nui te mihi aroha kia koutou. E tai mai nei. He mihi hoki ki te haukainga. Ngāti whātua. Kei a koutou te mana nō reira. Tēnā koutou. Tēnā koutou. Tēnā koutou katoa. So I am standing in, I'm the ring-in for Sarah Owen, the lovely Sarah Owen, who unfortunately came down Māwiwi. So big love to you, Sarah. I think she's tuning in on the live stream. My name is Nina Kay, Tāne Tinoro, no Ngāti Maniapoto Ahau. I represent Tiki Dub Productions, manage my little brother Tiki Tāne, and I'm also a trustee for the Māori Music Industry Coalition, which is the main reason that I'm sitting here with these incredible people. It brings me great joy to present the session. I think it's very important, so thank you to the organisers and the sponsors for holding the session. I'm going to have to check my notes because I only just really got them printed off today. But so what we're talking about in this session is exporting Māori excellence, and we have some incredible embodiments of Māori excellence right here. And I'm just going to start things off by asking each of you to say ko wai koe, no whea koe, who are you, where are you from, and then also if you can, maybe in like 15 to 20 words. Seeing as we're not good when we say 5 minutes, so we'll go 15 to 20 words. We'll try that, whānau? If you could give us a description, because we know that each of you are a what's the word, practitioner of waiata Māori, but what is your music? What does it look like, sound like, feel like, maybe smell like? Ooh. Yeah, all right, over to you, Ray. Taste like.
Tino reka. Kia ora, ko rei tēnei, he urio no Ngāti Raukawa, Ngāti Huia. He kai hippie hope aho, he kai waiata. I'm a singer, a rapper, producer from Pōneke. I've been living up here for a few years. I make chief music, whatever that embodies. I'm just going to leave it with that.
Cheers.
I don't even need 15 or 20 words. Chief music
Amazing. Too. 2 words. It's incredible. Nā mihi rei. Kia koe reti.
Kia ora tātou. Nei ngā mihi o ngā paibaunga o Tūwharetoa. On one side, I'm from our mountains down there. And then on the other side, I'm from our mountains up there. Mountains everywhere, whānau. Hi. How do I describe my music? Māori is one word. 14 to go. Indigenous soul music incorporating taonga puoro. That's our main buzz. Ngā mihi nui.
Did he do all right, Moitu? Ka pai. Nā mihi reti. Kia koe e hoa.
E te ti, e te tā, kia ora mai rā tātou katoa. He uri tēnei no Waikato taunui, no te Puahau Waikato, ngā sipa Ngāti Amaru ngōku hapu, ko kukutau ko karaka ngōku whānau, ko te tōku ingoa. My music, I have 2 projects. One is kaupapa reo rangatira, a Māori language project called Te Kāhu, and I reckon just in that I'm already over the 20. And that's it. Anyway, it pretty much is just like a beautiful interweaving of lots of, my whakapapa and teachings of my nannies, and just me trying to provide a resource for my hapu and iwi in my own mita o Waikato, like my own dialect. And then the other project is Thea, which is my alt-pop, kind of more experimental, like Find Me in the Gay Clubs kind of thing. So, yeah.
Ngā mihi. And you know what? I only just realised very recently that Te Kāhu, who I follow on Insta, and Thea are actually the same person. So it's lovely to meet you, sister. Ngā mihi. Kia koe e hoa.
Kia ora te whānau. He uri hau no Ngāti Maniapoto. Ko mahirangi tōku ingoa. Tēnei te mihi tuatahi kia koe, Alan, mō tō tono ki au ki, kei te tūki wainganui tēnei rangatira. Ngā mihi. I'm a loop artist, and to describe my waiata, protest.
What kind of protest?
No. I'd say that my waiata are basically, I like to sing about women's issues, especially Indigenous wahine around the world. And yeah, just anything, I guess, that is really impacting my journey in this, to our
you know, and trying to bring forth, I guess, wahine, especially wahine Māori and wahine around the world in the music industry who don't get to have space because there's, unfortunately, music is power, and having the mic is power. To ask people to take their own power away to give you space to stand in that power can be really a hard thing for people to let go of. So I really try my hardest to do my best to get wahine out into the out into the world. Kia ora.
Nā mihi, sister, we appreciate you very much. Kia ora. Kia koe e te tūngani.
Kia ora tātou, ko Troy Piripikingi tōku ingoa. He uri tēnei no te aroa, te whānau apanui me Ngāpui. What do I sound like? I make very self-indulgent music, and I'm currently a folk artist. Kia ora.
Kia ora rā. Tēnā koe. Ka pai. So, some of the things we want to look at here, I wanted to go a little bit back in time, around to when the Māori volcanics were around. Does anyone remember the Māori volcanics? Yeah? Oh, showing your age there, Kari. What about the Māori high five? Does anyone remember the Māori high five, right? So we're going back to the era of the show bands, right? The Māori volcanics are said to have performed in 58 countries over their 40 years on the road. Māori High Five released 3 albums on international labels. At the height of the Beatles' fame, the Māori High Five supported the Beatles in Hong Kong and later the Rolling Stones in Singapore. Ka pai, yeah. I didn't know that. That's not even mentioning all the other Māori show bands, let alone Collision, Frankie Stevens, so many more. Yes, all right. So what I would like to ask each of you now, when you were growing up, do you feel like you ever heard about Māori artists who became like superstars in other countries?
No.
No.
The quick answer is no. Look back 30 years, you know, toru noiho ngā kaipuoro Māori ringa I ngā reo irirangi. You might see once a month, or hear once a month. So to see where we are currently, you know, Māori language is flourishing on our airwaves, and it's because I feel like people are finally getting it, that it is the language of our country, and he mana tō tātou nei reo. Not just Māori artists, we've got a lot of Pākehā artists that are wanting to translate their songs or write in te reo. So I feel like we've come in leaps and bounds in the last few decades.
Kia ora, ngā mihi Troy. Does anyone else have anything you'd like to add? Maybe your own recollection of when you heard about the volcanics and the Māori high fives or anything like that?
I actually grew up as a musician on tour on the road with my parents, and my mum was the singer for Papa. Does anyone remember Papa? Well, my mum was a singer, my dad was the drummer, and then when Papa finished, it became Herbs. And I remember, so I'm going to tell this really cool story really quick. When I was around 7 or 8 years old, Herbs brought out Light of the Pacific. That's my mum singing the lead vocals, and we moved to Benidale, which is in the middle of the bush, in the middle of nowhere. Mum stopped music and stuff, and then they came to our whare, and Mum had an agreement with Uncle Jim Karaka, and she said to him, you got to take our kids on tour on the road. So on their first album tour, me and my sister as little kids were on the road touring with Uncle Jim and Herbs and their kids. So that was my experience of growing up in the music industry. But to me, like, forget the rest of the world. Like, the stage here for us in Aotearoa, for me at that time, was just bigger than big, you know. So, yeah.
Kia ora, sister. Anything else? Anyone?
Yeah, I was actually like thinking about this. When I was growing up, I was a kapahaka obsessed baby, and so I grew up just idolizing and learning every hand movement for all of the Pātea waiata, the Pātea Māori Club waiata, and so I also grew up watching all of the YouTube videos and seeing that Pātea was, along with Delvanius and, singing waiata, totally in our reo, dressed in, our kapahaka kākahu, was, performing in Good Morning America in freaking like the 80s. It was profound. So that for me was really inspirational because I was like, oh wow, like it's not just like brown people singing Pākehā songs. This is like us singing our own waiata that are like, dedicated to ngoi of all people, which is profound. And then further than that, I also grew up as, very proud Tainui baby, and knowing the whakapapa on taupiri and understanding about Tsuiteka and, that kind of lineage, which obviously came from the volcanics. So I think I kind of grew up understanding that. And also, sorry, I feel my uncles were like in the performance troupe for Moana as well. So it kind of also blew my mind seeing how, I don't know when I was growing up what the reception was to Moana in New Zealand necessarily, because you're just a child at school, but I saw that she was being so well received over in like Berlin and Europe, and that was just kind of cool to me. So there was like a bit of a discrepancy because I felt like growing up you feel like apart from our own insular world of kapahaka and matatini and stuff, I didn't necessarily see our people represented apart from, reggae bands and stuff, but I saw our people being really adored and respected outside. And also my manager P was telling me about how like years before she'd even started managing me or whatever, it must have been about 15 years ago, our dear Horo playing in the freaking rainforest in where was it P? Borneo, in a Borneo music festival. So that was Taonga Puoro Māori as well. So anyway, those are just my whakaaro of, I guess, thinking about, like, I didn't think about it until I saw the questions, but about how I've seen our people doing more traditional mahi overseas and it being really embraced in the world music scene.
Cool.
Maybe not mainstream, but,
Beautiful. What about you, Reti?
I just imagine the Volcanics in the same green room with the Beatles being like, oh, hey, Paul. I'm from this tiny little Pacific island. You may have heard about it through colonization. No, let's rewind that one. No, but seriously, though, our whānau had these awesome opportunities, and there would have definitely been whānau in their reanga and their generation going, hey, here's a blueprint of Māori excellence, trailblazing across Papatuanuku to Tuawhenua Ki Atu, and it's like, that's definitely a path I'd love to follow along, and what a legacy that they've left for us as aspiring Māori musicians, and they did it using their talents of singing and pulling together massive show bands, probably full of our own from New Zealand. So proud of them, I guess, is my response. Thank you for showing generations to come what it looks like and what it tastes like and what it feels like to be a global musician. Kia
ora, Reti. Kia koe, Ray?
Yeah, I guess I grew up in a pretty mainstream kind of environment. I went to like Kura Oiraki, is that all right? Like mainstream schools and stuff in Wellington. So like I was a little bit disconnected from like growing up around the whole Māori show band type thingy. So it wasn't really into my later life that I got to learn about all the amazing things that Māori musicians have done overseas, and they kind of touched on it. But it's pretty buzzy how like people like Moana like did amazingly on the worldwide festival circuit, but weren't that known here and weren't getting on festivals here. Like there's a lot of examples of our Māori tanga been celebrated more overseas than in Aotearoa, and as Troy's saying, that's like changing now, which is awesome. But I guess for me, like also other Māori artists like Stan Walker and what was that Oceana tune? That big Oceana tune? Kotahi tanga or whaka. Like I remember hearing that like when I was real young, and that was like a cool as like thing for me. And like I remember I was at the marae when my mum was getting her moko kauai, And I was watching the TV, and I was watching Stan Walker win Australian Idol. And like I was watching like the haka being like a haka being bust out in the front of the stage in Sydney. And yeah, that was also quite a pivotal moment for me, also just seeing you know, our taha Māori on the overseas and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, ngā mihi. And I think we've all kind of, one thing that's been quite clear from this too is that the support of media, you know, that's been a big part. And then for us, potentially, you know, with things like Māori television, iwi radio, etc., and getting ourselves slowly more and more into the mainstream space as well has had a huge positive influence. So kia kaha, media ma.
Yeah, technical one.
All right. The support is obviously welcome. So in terms of each of you as artists, or as humans even, what are your aspirations for your own music globally? Are there any particular countries that you're focused on or things that you want to achieve? Should we start with you, Ray?
Sure thing. Yeah, I really want to start getting on this the World Music Festival circuit. Obviously, Mihirangi's done some amazing things on that, so I'm keen as to get on that. Yeah, hopefully get on some Europe shows. We're hopefully going to Womex in a couple of months to go start making some inroads there. But yeah, the goal is to, you know, kind of showcase my reo Māori music with that, but also have my English and mainstream music run concurrently. So hopefully I'll be able to jump onto the, you know, World Music Festival circuit and then, you know, just hop over to the dance circuit as well. Because, yeah, dance music is also a big focus of mine. Always releasing remixes of my reo Māori stuff and my English stuff. So, yeah, Chief Music Worldwide, coming soon.
Chief Music, tautoko that. I'm on that waka. He waka he can know that one. I think it would, firstly, you know, it would be awesome to be able to share globally. And I think to be able to do it with a sense of indigeneity, with your reo and your culture and all the whakapapa that you bring to your stage wherever you are on planet Earth, for me, that has like a bigger impact on kind of like the cultural feelings of those lands and how things are working out for other iwi take around the world, you know. Here are these Māori artists that seem to be able to bring their Māoritanga with them, and I can bring my Native American tongue with me. I can bring my South American flavor to it too. And I think that would be a really awesome impact, to be able to grow the sense of world music as a thing that should always be celebrated on every stage throughout the world. And that for me would be the ultimate impact. And as a taonga puoro artist, there's another side there, is that every indigenous culture has their own indigenous music and instruments that create that music, and to empower that only enriches the stage with better flavors of instruments, you know. Love my guitar, love my drums, love my bass, love the keys and all of that. And they are flavors that have been doing the circuits around the world for at least, ages, generations, right? Now it's time to pull out our pukaya case, unpack that, mic it up, sound check, instead of sound check that kick, please. Yep. Tom. And I think that's definitely a huge part of being someone who is accepted in their own media, as you said, Nina, is that when you have a country that is promoting and empowering and amplifying te reo and the culture to which it comes from, you're actually empowering other indigenous cultures to follow suit. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah, because people, we forget that a lot of indigenous cultures around the world do look to Māori as leaders because of, you know, how well we have done. You know, we came off relatively light from colonization compared to a lot of other indigenous cultures. Bro. Yeah, so we have a special role to play, like you say.
To grow those chiefs.
Artists. Exactly. That's it, bro.
Kia ora. Beautiful. Pewhia koe e hoa, Thea?
Well, I think for my kaupapa o te kāhu, I've been, like, I started this kaupapa, again, sort of like, as I said before, as, I guess, he rauemi, like, as a resource for my hapu and iwi. And it's like, the thing that's, it like literally is just in my dialect and about specific things such as my maunga, taupiri and her whakapapa and waikato, the awa and, like all of these things that are very specific and so niche that I thought, first and foremost, I'm just going to just do it for my people. But, just like any other reo, our reo is also so beautiful that I'm sure that, if, willing, other people will catch on to it, and it's been really cool. I guess speaking of your pātai, which was which nations would I like to go to? Anywhere that will take me, but I think like for next week in like 2 days, I'm going to. I've been invited to perform at Big Sound, which I'm really looking forward to. So that'll be like the first time that I've ever really like performed ever outside of obviously Aotearoa for these mahi. And beyond that, I was really surprised. It kind of was like so cool for me to know this, but about a month ago, I got this call from this radio station in Alberta, Canada, saying that it was only after the record had just been released that it got it was number one in their top 30, and I was like, really? So that was kind of cool for me to hear, because I was like, wow, and it was alongside people like Mavis Staples and things. I guess it just occurred to me, but why wouldn't it, that overseas our music can really resonate there. So I guess my goal would be really special to be able to partake in folk festivals and Indigenous centred festivals in the States alongside our native brethren over there. So yeah, I guess just really anywhere. It's just a privilege to be able to, perform these waiata.
Beautiful, thank you. Mahirangi.
I'm trying to think of how to answer this question, because I've performed probably in most countries around the world. There's not a country that I don't think I've not performed in, and I've performed at most folk and world music festivals around the world in the last 30 plus years. But I thought maybe I'd take this opportunity to actually give an idea of how I got to actually do that to help you guys and to help anyone else in the room. So I started off, I worked at a world music organisation in Australia, the largest in the Southern Hemisphere, called the Boîte. And we would put concerts on at the Melbourne Concert Hall, and I was the administrator. And it was with Indigenous artists from Melbourne of all different cultures that we would put together. We'd have artists performing in 350 voice choirs and stuff like that. So I purposely did that job to actually gain connections and contacts. And I remember Simon from Big Sound, which I was just telling you about earlier, he had his first meeting at our office for Big Sound back in 2002. But what had happened was when I decided to be a solo artist, and my friends were telling me, sing in te reo Māori, you sound amazing when you sing in te reo Māori. I was really whakama. I was like, really? And this is going back in 2001. And I remember one of the brothers coming over from Aotearoa and, encouraging me to get a grant from Te Mangai Pāho and all that kind of stuff, and getting the grant and doing my first album in te reo. I think that was in 2003. And then one of the aunties in Melbourne, Auntie Kitty Jews, she taught me karanga. And she said to me, Mahirangi, you're not allowed to karanga unless you get permission when you go on tour to get with the local Indigenous elders and get permission from them first. So I put it in my contracts So every single concert that I performed around the world meant that I met with the local Indigenous people and got to speak to them first and kōrero with them first. That was my first goal. And what I discovered, this is way back then, what I discovered was all the things that we have in common that were really mamae for us as Indigenous people. So when I was getting up on these big stages, I was able to support and tautoko those Indigenous peoples, and from that gained friendships, relationships, and because that's what it's all about. It is literally only about friendships and relationships, and at the end of the day, if you create those and they're really super solid, you're going to create, that's your pathway. That besides your music's got to be good, regardless. But you know, these are the ways of actually getting into these places. Is first, most and foremost, connecting with the local Indigenous people, and that was a kaupapa that I stick to this day. And to this day, it is those relationships that have helped me get into the world stages. Kia ora.
Older.
Oh, and I've got contacts and stuff for all that. I'm happy to pass those on if anyone's... And folk music is not what you think it is. It is reggae, it is Indigenous music, it is hip-hop. So all these folk world festivals have all of that. They have those stages. So don't be afraid of the word folk. It's not a bunch of hippies getting around taking ecstasy. You know, or maybe it is. I don't know. It's not my kaupapa. Yeah, I'll shush now.
And over to our folk artist, Troy.
At my essence, I'm a really shy person, and like thoughts of like, my first and foremost, my number one job is father to my 5 children. So that's always at the forefront of my thinking whenever I'm doing anything. So like global domination, can't even dominate our pile of washing in the bloody room. So to be honest, I feel like apart from being a father, when it comes to my music, my sole focus is the music itself. So I take care of my art. That's where my passion lies. And you bring on great people to help you get to those next stages, whether it's doing what you do here in New Zealand or being able to do stuff abroad. I feel like as a Māori artist, you got to, even me, I'm not, not writing particularly in Māori all the time, but I've been brought up through koanga reo, through kura kaupapa, and I hold myself as a really proud Māori man. So whenever I'm interacting with anyone, you guys, anyone in the industry, whenever I'm doing shows or whatever, I take that with me everywhere I go to represent my people, to represent my iwi, my family, and I feel like that's the thing that gets the doors open for me. being unique and being proud to be who I am. And growing up, that's just the way you've been brought up. You never think it's anything special until you start coming into contact with people who don't have those little cultural aspects. Before we go on stage, we do karakia. Just all these little things you're just brought up doing. You don't even think twice about it. So I never take a back step on my tikanga. I never try and kiss ass. I always just be myself, and through that I've attracted the right people to me to help me get further and further. And I feel like, I don't know the answers on how to get to where, to what, but that's why you be a good person, treat people with respect, and then you'll attract the right people that are going to get you to the next phase, to the next stage.
Mauri ora to that. And I just want to say to each of you, all of you, that I think we can all say that we're very proud of you all. I just want to take that moment to say that, not only for carrying our language, but for carrying our values. And that's something that I know I see with each of you in the way that you move through the world. And that's what makes me most proud. So, big ups. All right, next question. So, we're going to look more now at what's been happening in the kind of Aotearoa music climate in the last couple of years. So, obviously with like waiata anthems, with Whaia Hinewehi and the incredible Mahi. She's the one from Oceania, by the way. Whakaoe. Yeah. You knew that, eh? Auntie. Yeah, Auntie Hinewehi. So some of the most commercially successful songs last year in Aotearoa included 35 by Kahao featuring Rob Ruha and Pepeha by 660. Has that changed your perspective on what is possible to achieve when songs are performed in te reo Māori, and how can you see that translating, at least figuratively, in overseas markets? He whakaaro. Ah, koutou. It's a lot, I know.
Yeah, I think you look at artists like Guramo, who, became huge on the world stage. And I think it's like what the brother Troy just said. It's all about like the wairoa. Songs have their own wairoa. They come through you, especially the best ones. They come through you. So for me, it's like, the opportunity is there. Like when I saw him going around the world stage and he's just blew up Indigenous music and he sang in language, and it was his wairoa that people were attracted to. So the world is in need of Indigenousness purely because of our way of living and our kaupapa and our tikanga and our mātauranga around the environment. And I think that right now is a really pivotal time because the world is crying out for help. So with those kinds of kaupapa, so I think so long as we as artists come from that place, there will always the songs themselves have their own journey, and if you can get them through the white pathways and walk through those doors, they swing wide open, especially if you've got the right kaupapa at the right time for the right audience.
Foo, that was pretty massive kōrero, sister. Nā mihi, anyone like to add to that?
Firstly, mihi atu kia koe wha hinuehi. Love you very much for the tautoko and also creating a platform like Māori Anthems, and I think we all agree. That, I think, has had a huge impact for us locally in our pito o te ao, in our region of the Pacific. And it's definitely going to grow, and it's definitely going to allow the language to continue its path of revitalization. So let's go fire anyway. And then, of course, I think with regards to that second half of that question, was that like all about how that will impact the world stages?
How can you see that translating in overseas markets?
So I think what ends up happening, and you used Pepeha as an example, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a window into Te Ao Māori. Right there, and so that can translate anywhere on around the world in ways that other whānau can tell their story. Pepeha was 660's way of telling quite a uniquely Māori story based in this land, and so I can see that translating in so many different cultures, and eager to see what that would look like, sound like, and taste like, and smell like. Just really, really curious to see how that would translate. Because again, the te reo is a window into our culture. Let's go, whānau around the world. Open up the window. It's getting hot in here. You like that? You like that reference?
Oh, that's it. Whoa. He's a wordsmith, that one. You all are. Just a little note too. Both those waiata that are written here, Pepeha and 35, I think they both have both languages, which is interesting, right? So they're in te reo Māori, but they've also got an English aspect that if you listen, you go, yeah, I get that. So that's maybe part of the recipe there. Any thoughts, Ray?
Yeah, I got a lot of thoughts. It just depends on how well I can formulate them right now. But yeah, my whole kaupapa with my reo Māori music is really I'm a bit like Troy. It's just self-indulgent. Really, I'm just making music that I like, and the same with my reo music. I just make music that I like, and that happens to be like quite current and dancey and hip-hoppy type stuff. But yeah, I think it's important for us when we're making Māori music to, everyone has their different styles and everything, but it's important to keep pushing our culture forward and keeping our reo relevant for our rangatahi with the type of music that they listen to. And that's kind of, just what I do naturally. Obviously, not everyone does that naturally, so it's fine. But yeah, it's also interesting to note that, like, our only ever te reo number one in this country was Poie, which was a completely groundbreaking modern song at the time. It was like using completely modern production techniques. It was like, all that 80s electro production and everything mixed with kabaka. And that's been our biggest reo Māori hit to date. So yeah, I guess I kind of want to keep that energy with my stuff. And yeah, Māori have always been big innovators as well. We literally have always we went to where no man has ever gone before. We've discovered new islands. We've found new lands just by the stars and the winds and everything. So I just want to keep that energy with my music. And yeah, and we're getting there. And I think, yeah, a lot of when I am doing stuff overseas, anything that's kind of internationally related, I do find that their ears do perk up more with my te reo stuff and my Māori stuff. Like I'm always like I did an interview on BBC London, and like one of the first questions was asking me about my Māori music, even though they were talking about Good Mood, but they wanted to talk about my Māori stuff. And that was just been quite a big eye opener for me. Also did my first couple of shows in the US a couple months ago, and I was a bit whakama about doing my reo Māori stuff as well. I was like, usually my sets 50-50 reo Māori and reo Pākehā. So I was like, didn't know if I should keep it the same, but yeah, I kept the reo strong, and yeah, people seem to really like it. So
beautiful.
That's encouraging for the future.
I think that's one of the main things that I noticed from touring, even way back in the day. I'm turning 50, all right? I don't care. I'm happy about that. I can't wait to get old. That's one of the main things that I actually discovered, was being really whakama about performing in te reo Māori, and that, oh no, people won't, and I'll put one waiata in te reo, and that was it. But then people would say, we want more te reo, and that was way back in the day. And to this day, people are always saying to me, audiences especially, are always like, please, can you just sing more te reo Māori? And it's amazing, they celebrate that. And I think because we have this, we've been colonised, we have this concept here in our own country that te reo Māori, we have to fight for it. I'm telling you now, overseas you do not at all. And it's celebrated because your Indigenous is celebrated. Why? Because we're authentic, we're real, we are who we are, and it's something different that they know nothing about, and they celebrate that. And yeah, truly.
Beautiful. Any other thoughts, Troy, perhaps?
I feel like it's good having people like 660, on that massive level that are singing in te reo. I've always said that the more people singing in te reo, the more it normalizes. Just like anything, the more you use something, the more people take it in, and it just becomes, instead of it being some Māori iwi station, it just becomes part of your everyday music that you listen to. And yeah, I feel like we're getting really close to that, where it's not just, oh, that's a nice Māori song. It's just going to be, that's a nice song that happens to be into te reo. So yeah, just like anything, the more we use it, the more it's just going to become a part of everyday life. And overseas, I feel like I listen to more music now that's foreign music I don't understand what they're singing, but I can feel what they're talking about. Like the last 2 years, I haven't really been listening to anything in English, and I feel like there's a lot of people out there that they just want something unique. They want to. You don't have to hear what people are saying to know what they're talking about. And I feel like our Māori artists put their wairua into everything that they sing about, so you don't have to know what the words mean to feel the song. So, yeah.
Love that. Any other thoughts there? You want to add anything?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. There's always, I feel like our people have been making music for obviously hundreds and hundreds of years, and there's so many artists that I just adore and that I grew up listening to, such as Whaiawhiri Mako and Mace and there's amazing Uncle Dennis Marsh, all of these people who've been so huge in like te ao Māori with our communities and that have inspired us. And so there is sort of like that debate where it's like people are like, yeah, Māori music is like really, having a moment. It's more like I feel like we've always been making music. We've always been making music that's in our reo, that's like the best quality ever. It's just it's finally being recognised in the mainstream. And so through initiatives such as this, it's more like our people have always recognised it, but now it's being more embraced, with the shift in the cultural zeitgeist. I mean, now we've got mira kakarimi tiakarete, things like that. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's not as if we're not making the music. It's more what is helping it along is the embracing and like acceptance of more mainstream platforms. So the way forward, in my opinion, is just to continue, trying to like urge and encourage our, because our iwi stations have always been here and always been supporting us, but more just encouraging those mainstream stations to, go beyond the quota or just embrace our music more, because I feel like that's it. Like, and internationally, absolutely. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it's like occurred to me, and I don't know. Like how everyone's like really into La Vie en Rose, and everyone's really into like all the Italian arias. Well, like it can be the same. I feel like a lot of people have grown up feeling, even myself when I was going through university and getting my degree, which is in Reo Rangatira and Māori Indigenous Studies. It was just so many people saying like it's only going to be useful in Aotearoa and stuff like that, but it's like we need to understand that just like you were saying Mihirangi, that just as the world embraces Italian arias and French music, they too can embrace our music as well, because it's so beautiful. So yeah, I guess those are my whakaaro. I'm like, we just have to keep doing what we're doing and, watch as the world becomes more inclusive of, and seeing the beauty in our Indigenous language and what we've been doing forever and ever. We kind of just have to keep, doing what we're doing and embrace the change and be like, open to going everywhere instead of just here.
Beautiful. And again, I just want to acknowledge each of you, because it's one thing to know that we've been doing this forever over in our space, but for you to step into these spaces and have the courage to still hold on so strongly to our language is definitely something to be acknowledged. So thank you. A couple more questions. One of them is, I just can't ignore it. I love this question. Start with you, Troy. What would your kuia or your grandmother think about what you do?
Shit.
Eyes of the grandmother.
Yeah, she kind of passed away about a year or two before things started kicking off for me, but I don't know. I think she'd be proud. She'll be like, oh, finally, because my dad was in a band back in the 80s with his brothers, and it never really eventuated into everything. So I think she'll be like, finally, someone's doing some shit now. Yeah, she'll be proud. She'll be proud.
Yes. Sister.
I remember when I did New Zealand's Got Talent, I was living with my koro, so I know exactly what he thought. I was sitting in front of the TV, and he's sitting next to me, and I'm coming out on stage on this big screen, and I'm like, here I come, koro, here I am, koro. And he looks at me and goes, Meherangi, you're fat. And from that point, my koro was like, he was really quite old, and he grew up very prim and proper, and he spoke fluent te reo that you couldn't even understand. He was so good. But his thing was like, you had to be strong and fit and healthy. So from that point onwards, he was like, Meherangi, get out of bed and go for a run. That's what he thought.
Kia ora koro. Kia ora koro.
Well, what would my koe think? My dear koe, Rangirara, raised me with learning and performing the songs of her mother, my great-grandmother, and always, encouraged me to stand up and do all her waiata tautoko. So she passed just after I'd released my first waiata, which was Rome, and she was just so absolutely proud. So I know that she'd be really, really proud, and that, my Nani Mite as well, which is her great-grandmother, who's, composed such like bangers for our, iwi, kiwiweka, then, yeah, I know she'd just be like over the moon, knowing that her great moko would be, carrying on that legacy of writing waiata reo Māori for our people. Yeah.
Kia ora.
Your nana composed ka noho kiwiweka.
Yeah, koira. Yeah.
Nui whānau.
And the port.
Ka wai rangatira here. Oh, mean. For me, I didn't really get to meet any of my nannies and koros and stuff. They all passed on because I'm kind of like the youngest moko out of all of them. But I managed to, hang on to one of them. And she's from just under Tongariro, buried over there. And, my mother pursued taonga puoro hardcore. And my mum died before my nana died. And so, a mother should never have to bury her own. And it broke her heart because she thought, oh, well, you're gone. These taonga are not going to sing anymore. And so I guess she'll probably be proud that I'm still playing puoro, particularly mums. So, yeah, we'll never know.
Kia ora. Kia ora riti. Big mahi. Rai.
Yeah, my grandparents that are still here, they're proud. Obviously, not all of the music translates that well, and they don't always know how to talk about it. But my granny's so cute, though. She it's so hard, so far like out of her realm of understanding. She doesn't know what to ask, but she does make an effort. And she's my Pākehā granny. She's still doing. She's just started like te reo lessons at her like retirement village and shit. It's real cute. And I even went in for one a couple months ago. Choice as, but she's also the same granny that I sit down with, and she says, "Don't forget you got colonizer blood in you too, boy." So she's very straight up, but I love my granny. She's she's very supportive. So yes, I haven't forgot granny. But yeah, my koro passed before I really started popping up in my music. So but yeah, I'm sure he'd be super proud. If he was my age, if he was growing up in this time. At my age, he'd be listening to similar music that I listen to, so like he'd get it. So yeah, sure.
I love that as each of you are talking, I could just imagine your dear nanas and your dear koros, and I'd like to just mihi to them. Nō reira I te hunga tūpuna, nana mā, koro mā, haere, haere, haere atu rā. Back to us. Okay, last question. Oh, we've got 28 seconds, so 2 seconds each. Okay, so this is about the next generation, of course. What would you like to see change for the next generation of Māori musicians taking their music to the world?
4, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you. We had awesome time.
Oh, they're leaving it on 1 second. That's
I think just be fearless, be unapologetic and proud of who you are. That's it.
What he said.
Yeah. I actually, you know, because I've got a real mix of a whānau. I've got some half Indian, half Māori whānau. I've got Asian connections in my whānau, so bloodlines run very, very thick all over Aotearoa. And to all of them stand strong in your culture, proudly, like the matua said. And so for all the generations of New Zealand Aotearoa that are coming here, what Matua Choi said.
Kia mau ki tō Māoritanga o kia mau ki tō tangata whenuatanga, ahakoa ki whea.
Just that, you know, ka tae e koe ngā mea katoa, you know, you can do absolutely anything, and to just, you know, remember your roots and, you know, our tupuna who paved the way in our, you know, music journey, and that, you know, by the time I have mokopuna, hopefully, I mean, I can't even comprehend how normalised our reo will be, and I really hope, I would encourage my mokos to, you know, try and compose in their dialect, keep that strong, you know, to be able to see collaborations with our other Indigenous whānau, but to always represent, you know, our Māoritanga and Tainuitanga and everything like that. But yeah, I'm very, very excited to see what will happen when I'm an old nanny still touring Te Kāhu. Probably have my, like, great-grandchildren, like, being my backing singers or something when I'm
Ka pai. Well, on that note, anei anō te mihi nui ki a koutou raurangatira mā. What an absolute honour it is to have you here and to share this space with you, and to hear your very precious thoughts and aspirations, experiences, memories. Invaluable, those are gold. So thank you so much. I think the future is in really good hands, and so is the present, obviously. And yeah, just to each of you, kia kaha, kia maia, kia manawa nui. We're so, so proud of you, and thank you for everything that you are doing. And can we give them a big clap, please? And I'm sure they're all kind of hanging around if you wanted to maybe have a bit of a chin wag. And just also thank you to all of you for coming to this session today. We see you, we appreciate it. I do need to do a little bit of housekeeping, something or other. It is now time for afternoon tea break. During the break downstairs in the Brick Room, music tech company Disco will be having a demonstration of how their music sync platform works. So head down there. And the next session starts at 3:10 with I've Been Thinking here in Studio A, where a selection of international guests will let us know what is on their mind after the past 2 days of conferencing. Did anyone listen to that? Thank you. Just doing my job, mate, doing my job.
Traffic lights, they just goes on the fight when the colors not right.
I'm having fun, but I just can't seem to quite lose myself. There's always something at the back of my mind that makes me feel. What's going down? An empty house.
we could watch the sunrise. We've been up since last night, hypnotized by the sunshine. We don't usually go outside.
Looking up to the sky, go cool with the solar flare. Making us rub our eyes, now we're blind. Trying to find the city's very best King Kai. Danny, the #1 late night hit franchise. I'm going deep, fully customized. Build my own breakfast on the side. Bacon, eggs, and a pancake stack all fried. And you know I gotta upgrade my main with the curly fries. Upgrade my main with the curly fries. Upgrade my main. Yeah, we could watch the sunrise. We've been up since last night, hypnotized by the sunshine. We don't usually go outside. Yeah, we could watch the sunrise. We've been up since last night, hypnotized by the sunshine. We don't usually go outside. Walking home on the beach during low tide. Joggers passing by. I get it a roadie for the ride. Got that Pascali security on the slide. Even though we had the spotlight, all eyes on us as we sung Mr. Brightside. And I miss you for the second time. Another encore as we stepped inside. Dunkin's lit up by the fridge light. Playbacks got us asking why. I hope you had the time of your life. Already losing the sunlight. Let's do it again, but only sometime. Now let's watch the sunset. Turn to the refresh. Run it back. Now let's watch the sunset. Turn to the refresh.
We are controlling transmission. We are controlling transmission.
Thank you.
Hello.
Don't fall off that.
You're coming with me if I go.
I'm okay. You're too close to the edge.
That's right. No, I don't know. Is Kat introducing us?
Just take a photo. I wonder. We should get everyone to. Because then I can have. Yes, please. Very kind of you.
So we just hook in, guys. Apparently the session's finished downstairs, but we just start. Kia ora, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Dodgy cable, dodgy cable, dodgy cable, dodgy cable. Can you hear me? That's low. Kia ora, everybody. Can you hear me? This sounds like it's not working. Okay, cool. I'll spend an hour doing this. Hey, welcome to I've Been Thinking. My name is Mikey Carpenter, and I have a beautiful panel of human beings with me with various experience in the music industry. A little intro about myself. I have been in film and television for 20-odd years as a music video director, a producer, an editor, and currently a colorist, and also a artist manager, and managing the fantastic Georgia Lines, who's playing tonight at 9 o'clock in the Wine Cellar. Come check her out. On our panel here, I'll let everyone do a little intro of who you are and what you guys all do. After you.
Thanks, Mikey. Kia ora. I'm Rachel Kelly, look after operations for Utopia Music in Australia and hopefully New Zealand. And so we're a fintech company based in Switzerland, and we're on a mission to see fair pay for every play. And my background is publishing, A&R, sync. And I always say you can take the girl out of publishing, but you can't take the publishing out of the girl. And it's good to be here.
Hey everyone, kia ora. I'm Benji. I work at Gyrostream doing A&R and streaming partnerships. I also work within artist management and publishing.
I'm Millie, and I'm the executive producer for Sounds Australia, which is our national export program.
I'm Tom Larkin. I'm the conference programmer for Big Sound. I'm a record producer. I'm an artist manager, and I'm an artist myself in a band called She Heart, and I've been doing it for 33 years. There you go.
A featured drummer.
Lead drummer.
A lead drummer.
Hi, I'm Amy Davidman, founder and agent at TBA Agency in the United States, and I'm really happy to be here.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Hey, first of all, I just want to get a bit of an idea of what we have in the room. So, artists, hands up. Cool. Managers?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Awesome.
Anyone publicists in that kind of zone? Hi, Nicole. And any producers? Anybody doing all of those jobs at once? Yes, exactly. Well, I think the whole idea of this panel was basically to kind of sum up the last 2 days, how it's been for you guys and also how it's been for you guys, and just to kind of, close off the conference, have some open chats about what we've all learned and how's it been for everybody. So I'm going to start basically for each of you guys. If someone was to say to you, how is Going Global New Zealand, what would you say?
I'd say I can't believe it took me so long to get here. It's been, first time. I've been talking about it for a long time and just schedules never worked out, but really glad I made it happen this year. I've really enjoyed diving a bit deeper and understanding a bit more about the community here. It's really special, and I think Australia can learn a lot from what's happening here, especially the funding you have. Government support's incredible, and just that really nice community. I think I really love that.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I'm going to take away is how much Australia needs to learn about coexisting and integrating First Nations culture, and just how beautiful it was seeing that Welcome to Country and everyone's involvement, and just overall the warmness of New Zealand. I think I was born in Brisbane, but my mum is actually from a very, very, very expensive, illustrious place up north called Whangarei that you might have heard of. So I always say I'm Australian, but I don't know, this trip kind of has made me want to claim my heritage as well, just because there's a lot of work that needs to be done in Australia, and it's really nice to see, and also heartbreaking at the same time, just seeing where we're at.
I'd have to agree. It's my first time as well, and I think the community is really there, and I think the infrastructure that surrounds the New Zealand industry is incredibly strong, and I think, you know, for those that are here today versus those that aren't, you're really taking advantage of it. And you see this around the world, that there are initiatives and there's different programs that all overlap and integrate. Yet there's still a lot of artists and industry that aren't kind of getting involved. So, yeah, to see the way that people are, and everyone's just been so generous with their time, and yeah, it's been fantastic.
For me, it's been, again, coming home, and it's been pretty tough in the last few years, living between the two countries, and trying to get back. But I think overall it's amazing to see the health of the New Zealand music community and the direction that it's headed. And of course, I would remind everyone that the support from a community and governmental level for music is absolutely world class, and it's very fortunate. And I think, you know, the music community in New Zealand will reap the benefits, and this is, you know, an example of such. So, yeah, great to be back. Yeah.
I would say that I think, you know, we all talk about the music industry on a global level, but there's really no way to replicate truly understanding a culture until you go there. And I think, especially in the States, there's just like a way of thinking about Australia and New Zealand as like one thing or one place, one area. And it's been really nice to just see like the identity of this place, and the identity, very identity forward, which is a big conversation in the US right now. So it's just there's really nothing to replace that, I think, having that experience, even if it's just in a couple of days, just scratching the surface, but really important.
Great, yeah, that's amazing. I want to talk a little bit about, obviously everyone here it's called Going Global, so the idea is to try and export our music overseas. For you guys, how important is it for people to concentrate on exporting their music, or is it more important to concentrate on getting good here, crafting your craft here, and then planning to export then? Like, how important do you think that is?
My entire existence revolves around exporting. However, and I think I touched on this the other day, you need to have a base somewhere. And I think the concern now is the speed in which artists are going overseas is frightening, in that it's really unsustainable because of the sheer investment needed. And if you're trying to build a career in multiple territories simultaneously, that's really, really hard if you don't have an established place where you can come back and know that you've got a little bit of a safety net in terms of earning money, like the real brass tacks of the commercial elements of it. You need to have those really loyal fans, that strong audience base that you can, you know, whip around or, you know, New Zealand and at least bring in money, have APRA returns coming that you can then build from and keep going back and forth. So it's a little bit of a juggle, because I think, you know, because of the nature of the physical product landscape, it is all about streaming and digital, so therefore the revenue is considerably less when you're starting out. You do need to look for multiple markets, and the internet and the different services have allowed us to absolutely reach audiences in a way we never could. but it's just about being really, really strategic in how you do that. So I think it's a little bit of column A and a lot of column B. Like, you got to get some kind of bedrock. And I also think it's about making sure that your craft, and every single time you're on stage, you're going to deliver the best you can. And if you're going too early, you just don't, no matter how great the songs are, you just don't have that as muscle memory. And I think that's where you really need to develop locally.
I think the saying is the grass is always greener, but the grass actually is greener in New Zealand. Like, literally, it is. And the culture is so rich, and just to every artist, everyone in this room, don't underestimate the power of culture, because I don't even know if we've seen the boom of the togetherness of New Zealand becoming, this serious wave of momentum. It's something that you can't replicate, and you can be the people that make that happen. Just like we're seeing the rise of Western Sydney rap at the moment. Like, there's no reason why you can't do a similar thing in whatever genre you're doing. Like, there's just so much potential, and I think, just don't underestimate the power of that, because once you master being a big fish in a small pond, you can become a big fish everywhere, and it will just add to the story and add to everything. So it's a very exciting time, I think.
I was gonna also talk about the story. What's your story? And if you can't figure that out at home, then it's not going to translate anywhere else. So I want to know what's special, what's interesting, what's different, why is it going to matter? Why are you now trying to go global? Like, what threshold did you hit that now makes it really important that you're going beyond your borders? And so definitely developing at home it's just, it's not always going to happen 100% of the time, but it makes for a really great way of getting people's attention, that story.
When you are looking, obviously, for, having an agency, what are you looking for brand new acts that are coming through? Like, is it their streaming? Is it their radio? What is it that kind of, for you, you're like, yes, I can see the potential here?
Yeah, I mean, I have to like the music. That's not every agent says that, but that's my reality. I have to like the music. I have to see potential. I have to feel like I also envision a strategy, my own personal strategy for where the music is going to go and what audience is going to react to it. I'm not so much of a numbers person, but it is helpful to go look around and say, oh yeah, that all of that backs up how I'm feeling about this. For me, I really need a team to be in place. A couple different people, booking agents. In the very beginning, it's just super hard. It's super hard for everyone. So it takes a lot of work to develop bands. You don't make any money for a long time. So everybody needs to collectively get together and help each other. So as a booking agent, I need help. I need a manager or a label or a publicist. It doesn't have to be all of those things, but people who are willing to work on that strategy and then get their hands dirty.
And Tom, you've been doing this a little bit. How's it changed, like, from being in a band for what it was maybe like even 10 years ago now, for like trying to, carry on the journey, but obviously streaming's come in, live's gone away for a little bit there. Like, how have you guys kind of stayed on top of the changes?
Well, I think you've got to be flexible in order to do this, and I think, but I also think you've got to get something out of playing music that feels vital, because it's a very tough industry, and I think we're navigating our way, and I think becoming more, transparent and more accountable. I mean, there's a hell of a long way to go on that front, but the doors are opened, and I think there's a long way to go. And I think that is hopefully going to make it easier, because I think the amount of attrition that I've seen, and this is, when we talk about attrition, we're not just talking about artists who are really talented who chose to go into another job because it was too hard to sustain itself, but it's also about people who actually died along the way, trying to kind of get this there. I think we're talking about a much more accountable environment in which to be an artist and to be a creative and to be someone who works with artists and creatives. So I think that's probably the biggest change overall. And I think that the rock and roll myth, the tortured artist, the self-destructive artist, those myths need to go away, because they are not helpful. And I think we're seeing that turn around. And I also think we're seeing that idea of community and music actually reflecting communities as being something that's really starting to come to the fore, and I think that there's just nothing but good out of that. And, you know, insofar as Aotearoa New Zealand is concerned, that's actually one of our greatest strengths, is how that works, you know. And, you know, when I think back to when I went to high school, you know, I got schooled by the other people in that music class, none of whom hung around and finished, you know, school certificate or went on to higher education, but were the most amazing musicians. And they taught me about reggae and hip-hop and everything like that. And I got that, and I shared metal, you know, and that kind of exchange has still continued and grown in this country. And I think it's just an absolute advantage to how music's created here and what the kind of music comes out of New Zealand. So, yeah, I think, yeah, wear that as a badge of pride. Yeah.
Just again to the room, hello to the new people that have just joined us from downstairs. How many of you guys out there have released records, or are you at the start of the journey? Anybody put albums out? Like, just be good to get an idea of, you know, where's everyone at? Has anyone put a song out? Albums out? Anybody just beginning this whole entire journey? Because I think something that was mentioned was a team, and I think a team is super important around any artist. And a team doesn't have to cost money. A team can be, a manager can be a friend, or, you know, anyone like that. I just want to maybe elaborate a bit more about building a team for if you're a brand new artist. Like, any advice on who you should be reaching out to? Are friends and family good? You know, should you chase managers? Should you chase record deals? You know, are these things important?
The first thing you should do is find a lawyer and send them the music and let them do the work, because they're the brains of every deal, everything. So if your music's good and you have a lawyer, they'll be able to seed it to the right people and make introductions if the people that they've sent it to are interested. It'll save a lot of time.
I'm going to very politely disagree with what you said about a manager being a friend and they're free, because I think a manager can be your friend, but ultimately, if they're going to take on that role, they should be part of the economics of it. And I think it's
Did I say free? I definitely didn't mean to say free.
I said they could be free.
No, did I say friend?
Both.
Might be my Christchurch accent.
Sorry. Whether you said it or not, maybe we should
make... It's definitely free. Yeah.
I really totally think, and look, and I think often it is your best mates that have been there from the beginning that are really, that end up managing that act forever. Like, I think even LeBron's, you know, manager was his best mate, and I think that can happen. Well. But it is about, even in the very, very early days, setting up the idea that people that are working with you are part of the, you know, the value chain of what you
managers don't work for free, because it sets up a really just totally inequitable situation where all of a sudden there's too many favors going on. It can get really messy, and you want that artist to succeed. Well, guess what? When they succeed, you're going to be kicked to the curb, and like it just creates, I think, just an emotional problem. Like, there should be a real exchange going on with the work that's happening. But it still can be your neighbor or your friend. I think getting
to value the people.
Yeah, totally. And I think that, you know, the reality is that to get somebody who just completely believes in you. I have a situation right now with an artist who nobody knows about. She's just breaking. People who are in the industry are just finding out about her, and she surrounded herself with friends who are all like in university and in music business programs. And she got like a really early stage tour manager who was just doing kind of like I guess you would call it like an apprenticeship with another tour manager. And then she had this friend who was helping her, who was just still in college, like figuring things out. And things have really been happening for her. And what happened is that a larger management company came in and identified that they were interested in working with her. And she said, you know, great, I want to do that, but I have these friends who are kind of part of my team. And he said, oh, that's great, because I don't have time to do all the little stuff. Let's hire everybody. I need somebody. Can you do social media? Can you do X, Y, and Z for my management company. So I'll hire you on as like basically like a junior manager, and I'll hire you on as like a tour production person. So you're going to get all these other jobs that you have to do for other artists, but then we'll have everybody here together. And as a manager, I can basically, use this junior manager as an assistant in a way, but like also teaching them at the same time. So there's a lot of those types of relationships that I think they might be rare, but I think you can, dream it up, like figure out how that might work for you so that you have people who believe in you who are next to you, but then you're also kind of like reaching for a dream.
Great answer. I'm going to check the tape to see if I said free or not.
I'm so sorry, Mike.
I feel so bad.
I just think managers have got such a tough job.
I know, I'm 20.
Yeah.
That does lead me into a good question, though. I'd love to know from each of you is like, why do we do it? Like, we've all been doing it a long time. Many times you think, I'm done, this is ridiculous, I've made no money, it's not working, no one likes me. But then we get sucked back in by a song, or we get sucked in by seeing someone live, and you're like, oh my God, there is a reason. So I'd love to hear from each of you guys, like, why are you still here? What connects you to the music industry still?
Oh, good question. Probably, put simply, the music. There's been, I think, it's a rite of passage being in the music industry 20 years. You get a few redundancies along the way, and there was a time, it was probably 10, 15 years ago, I got made redundant, and I was like, okay, I'm done with this industry. And I went to the UK, I went to Scotland, and I thought, I'll work in commercial property. How different can it be? Intellectual property? It turns out very different. I fell asleep in a staff meeting. I was so bored, and I realised I needed to do something creative. Like, I needed to work with creative people. And, I think it's just something I've tried to move away from it, but I keep coming back. And, I think where I'm at now, I'm really happy because I was looking to set up my own publishing company at one point. And to Millie's point, like, managers have it so tough, and like trying to start a business at the beginning of the pandemic or during lockdown was like, just, I couldn't possibly fathom how that would have gone now looking back. But, certainly being in an opportunity to try and create something a bit more sustainable where everyone could get a paycheck. For me, I'm really quite passionate about that. So I feel like it's almost a calling in a way, and I can't do anything else. So, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I just owe it to myself. Like, it's always just been the thing that I've always had since I was little, and it's gotten me through everything I've ever gone through. So I would like to pay it forward and be able to play a small part in small moments that maybe, like, you don't know who's on the receiving end of it. You work on a song and put it out there, but that song might, save a kid's life, might be the album that they listen to when they lose a parent. Like, it just means so much, and I honestly couldn't do anything else. I have the worst ADHD. I don't even know how to learn other things. Like, this is what I know. This is my language. So, yeah.
I'm not a music person as such, so I didn't come at it. I'm an honest person. And I feel like that probably has been quite different. Like, I never ever thought I want to work in the music industry. It was never something that was the goal. And I think it's much more for me about relationships and about you get to build these networks and you get to work with the creative people and the artistic people and help them realise their vision. So my background was in management and was in venue bookings. And so now on an exporting level, when you get to play a small role in helping Australian artists do the things that they're doing internationally and building it's like Rubik's Cube, it's matching people. Maybe I could have done those dating service things, because I feel like a lot of my job is, oh my God, you need to meet this person. Have you met yet? It's a lot of that Bridget Jones, and I just feel like that I kind of found my space in that regard, because I don't make music. I know what I like, but it's not that at all. And I don't think I've ever felt like I need to get out of it either for that reason. Maybe I've just been really lucky in that way.
Yeah, I think, the idea that it's a calling is pretty much it. It's once that kind of struck when I was 11 years old, started playing drums, and it never went. But I think it's also, I mean, it's such an amazing kind of industry because you can come from the creative, but you can explore all these other areas, and I've definitely done that. But I think also, to Millie's point, is one of the things that you start kind of coming around to, I think, is that, well, then it's actually the people in the music industry, and when you go to these other kind of environments and these other worlds, you suddenly go, oh no, I feel like an alien. And you come back to the music industry, in whatever sector you're in, you still feel like, oh yeah, this is the language I speak, this is the way I think works with these people in this environment. And so it feels like home, right? So it's both the musical thing and the people in the community as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel a little bit like Millie in the sense that I just feel like a connector.
Cancelled.
No. And, you know, I grew up in a house with a parent who's a musician and a teacher and screeching instruments with children. And I thought, you know, when I went to college, I was like, get me as far away as possible from that. I didn't quite realize that probably it just had like seeped into my blood a little bit. And and I thought I was just going to go into like the nonprofit arts space, and somebody just came knocking like, oh, do you know this place called the Bowery Ballroom? You want to work there? And I was like, it's my favorite place to go. Wait, that's a industry? Like, I can do that? I mean, I had no idea. So to also, I mean, I feel so grateful that I essentially fell into it. And live music is, for me, it's, I mean, in the same way that you're talking about just music, well, I need to experience it. I have a really hard time actually just sitting and listening to music. So going to shows was just super important to me for just feeling it. And I can't imagine living without going to shows. It's like kind of painful sometimes that I work in front of a computer and on the phone all day, because I'd much rather be at shows all the time. And I don't really know how to do anything else. Like, I'm an organized person, and there's all these artists out there that need organized people. So like, there's a space for that, you know, it's really important. And it's just so gratifying to be a part of making something happen like that and seeing it play off and just be like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable and transcending.
How did you cope with the last 3 years?
It was so painful. I started a company, so it kept me a little busy. Yeah, I mean, talk about like not knowing what else to do. We launched an agency in September of 2020, and it just was a lot of phone conversations, a lot of socializing. That's the other thing about this business. Like, I love it because it's so social. I love coming to conferences like this to just hang out with people and talk about our, interests and what we're excited about and all of that stuff. So it's definitely a place for social people. Yeah, it was hard, but essentially, like, I think, I just saw my role as a hustler. Like, I have artists, they need to pay bills. I need to figure out how to get them paid. So I don't care what that is. Is that a virtual show? Is that playing outdoors? Is that working harder on brand deals? Like, what are those things that need to happen? Again, like Millie, it just felt like, okay, I'm the connector. I got to just like make as much happen as possible. So I was on the phone 10 hours a day, just like, what are you doing? Are you doing something? Do you have a pop-up in your backyard? Are you selling tickets somewhere? Do you have some money that someone gave you? Because I have a bunch of artists that need money.
So for the artists, is there, like, I know it's tough, but how many of you guys have thought about just stopping doing music and doing something else? Slowly the hands go up. Because you guys have probably all done some mentoring during your time. Like, what do you say to artists like that, where they're like, they come to you and go, I can't get a break. I don't know what to do. No one's listening to my music. Like, what do you say to people who are thinking, this isn't for me anymore? But you know that it is because you can see the talent.
The best advice that I could give, and this is something that I've often done, I'm like that delusional that I truly believe I'm on the right path, and have never ever thought I wasn't, but just reflect on the formative little moments. Like, it could be someone introducing you to someone, or just coincidentally sitting on the same flight as someone, or just those things where you're like, no, this is real. Like, all these things wouldn't have happened if I was on the wrong path. You know, just reflect on those and identify those along the way as well, because it's kind of like the backbone. It's like the roadmap for the success journey. You know, like you're able to see all these different things along the way, and appreciate them, because you're blessed if you're living a life in music.
You sure?
Yeah, I can go first if you want me to. I mean, I speak to a lot of university classes, and I know it's different, like being an artist and being in like a music business class. But I do think that this advice is pertinent, which is that you need to trust your peers, like who's sitting next to you in the room, and who do you know, and who's out there right now doing the same stuff that you're doing, and really lean into those relationships, because you don't know who those folks are going to be in 5 or 10 years, what's going to be going on with them. I kick myself all the time that I didn't keep a lot of the relationships that I had in my early 20s in this business, because a lot of them are like super powerful people now. And I just think that it's a way to share information and support each other. And, I just tell people all the time, like, you don't need to know Paul Tillett, who books Coachella. You need to know his intern. You need to know his assistant, who is at your level in the industry, who you connect with, and maybe you're the same age, maybe you came from the same place. What are the connections that you have that are easy and are peer to peer? Because I think that those are often overlooked, because people think that they have to know everyone like 10 steps ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that if you're stuck, try and do something different immediately, and that includes maybe walking away. And the amount of time, and when I say walking away, leaving what it is that vexes you, right, and finding something else to occupy yourself with. And it's amazing how many times when you do that, what it was that you left behind takes on a life of its own. Now, usually I'm talking about something like opportunities or writing music or anything like that, or those things. But I think everything that everyone else has said applies. But I also think that sometimes you can get tunnel vision, and sometimes that tunnel vision is actually causing you a lack of new ideas and input. And that if you go and do something completely oppositional or different, that you get a breath of fresh air, a new input, and it sparks your imagination and opens up new pathways. So yeah, look to do something different. If you're stuck, try something different.
Just not commercial property.
Although she found a partner, so it wasn't all bad.
Yeah, that's true. I did find my partner.
Yeah, I think what you said, Benji, was like also enjoy the journey, because like being an artist or a manager or anybody, like it's a special job we get to do. Like not everyone gets to do that every day. Some people sell shoes for a living. So like playing a show to no one, or making a video on your phone and putting it on your socials, like it's all fun. You got to enjoy it, because if you don't, then...
I do actually just want to jump in there, because I just had a little flash of kind of like going, actually, sorry, to that point. When I was in the States, exactly this. I was in the States, everything was going crazy. We got, we changed the name. There's a whole, the whole story that we changed the name. Everything kind of went disastrous. And I remember going that, the lead singer of the band was the central force of someone who destroyed all these deals, right? That one bad joke just took $4 million away. Long story. Anyway, but I walked out of that going, I will never ever let one person control my future again. And then I went, okay, what'll I do? And I actually figured out just some small real estate stuff, right?
Did you fall asleep?
In that, no. And in that, it was like hard negotiation, deal making, tough hiding your figures, all these kind of things that had nothing to do with a song or anything like that, but really helped when I was in management. And so that's exactly kind of what I'm talking about. And so when I came back, because I was sick of it, I was like, fuck this, never again, and then it took about perhaps 18 months, and all that stuff I learned in that journey has stayed with me ever since, and actually really helped. So, of course I didn't stay in that at all. I just started,
So do you try
Well, not yeah.
Jace, what are you going to go away with?
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is, as crazy as it sounds, you may find something in a completely different place that sounds so completely different to what it is. And if you've got a mind that will absorb stuff, you can bring it back and use it. And oftentimes it will give you something really different from what anyone else is focusing on. That's all. It's just it's not necessarily Scottish commercial real estate.
That's such a good point, Tom. I actually wanted to touch on that because when I first started working at Utopia, I felt like such a fish out of water. It felt like, honestly, completely different industry. Like fintech is not something I knew much about. Everyone was very techie. I actually had to start a new glossary of all the new anagrams I had to learn. But what I love about it is like the diversity of thought and thinking, coming back to some of the challenges that we have in the industry. Like sometimes we do things because that's the way it's always been done, or we're just too busy to kind of look at some of these things. But we've got people from banking, finance, all sectors, looking at some of the challenges the industry has. So I love that because we're actually problem-solving things and we bring little squads to try and solve these problems. So I think having stimulation from different places, it just brings a different sort of viewpoint. And maybe that's the journey I'm on. Like I had to step out of it to come back with another level of appreciation. Because I think in honesty, you can get really burnt out. And I really do feel for artists that are trying to break it. It's so hard sometimes. And you do feel like you're not getting anywhere and you're not seeing any progress. But one of the things I might say to our mate Carrie, yesterday on a panel, he said, see these blue tags, come and talk to people. And like the wonderful thing about community here is like everyone's accessible. You can literally talk to anyone in the room and take that away with you. Like I know there's a little bit of competitiveness, but like there is community and everyone is generally very approachable and help each other out and bring different perspectives and experiences. And we've all been there. Like we've all got to start somewhere, right? So yeah, that was a good point.
I think it's also the rise of the slashy. Like I have 3 jobs. 1, I get paid no money because managers work for free apparently. 2, I get a little bit of money. And 3, I get paid fortnightly because I'm on a salary that someone else pays me, thankfully. And all those things complement each other. So I get to kind of create, a day that I'm kind of working 3 jobs at one time, but all those things are always interconnecting and helping each other. So I'm not saying everyone needs to work 3 jobs, but don't be afraid of just trying to find, other things that you can actually diversify your skill set and get the experience maybe to help you with what you're lacking.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with educating yourself in your business across the board. One of the last things, we're going to do some questions soon, but one of my last questions for you guys is, does it feel like New Zealand is heading in the right direction from the outside looking in?
I have something to say.
Great.
There's an artist in New Zealand. He's actually in America at the moment. His name's Will Swinton. He is being chased by Brockhampton, and Machine Gun Kelly is a huge fan of the upcoming EP. There's so much stuff going on, and it's. I feel like this is the thing where someone tells you about Benny or Lord before it happens. Like, this is the next thing. So hopefully there's many more of them, and it continues to become this, world of global export music. But yeah, definitely pay attention to that because it's very, very exciting.
Is he with you?
I do. He's with someone else's label that I help on, but no, he's just it's just incredible. It's really, really good.
Great. He might pay you.
No, he doesn't. No money.
Free. Amy, how's it from your side of the world looking over to New Zealand?
I mean, I have to say that to see the kind of support, funding support, government support, means that there's a completely different feeling between people and among everyone. At home, it's just so dog eat dog. It's like painful, and it really affects your nervous system. And I think that there's just a way that everyone's been here that's just been so like calm and welcoming. And I'm sure that's not the way it is 100% of the time, but that's an amazing place to be for creating and to feel so supported. And so I know that's not any in one individual person's like trajectory in a way. It's like the whole country, but it's super attractive to me. And I think that I just think that that's like a total leg up globally to be able to be coming from that. It's like almost like mental health. I mean, it's like coming from a place of much more positivity in general.
Yeah, I might just add, last time I was here, I was really fortunate to be a fly on the wall when Song Hubs was happening in this building, and it's where I first met Teeks, actually, and I was a little bit obsessed with him, and I still am. But I found culturally, like, there was this, because of not having much publisher presence on the ground, it was a very solitary experience with songwriting, and so there wasn't much collaboration going on, and APRA really took that role to connect people and create song hubs. And I think coming back a few years later now, it feels a lot more collaborative, and maybe that's a real benefit from the pandemic, and being focused on the domestic market feels really strong. And I would say yes, in so many ways, like, New Zealand's definitely heading in the right direction, and like Australia, take note.
Yeah, totally. How many people are co-writing in the room? How many people were co-writing 5 years ago? Yeah, it does feel like it's happening a lot. Like, a lot of people are writing together, and yeah.
It was a source of shame. If you did that, you couldn't do it on your own.
I know, yeah.
It was like, no way.
Especially if you're in a rock band, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, no way.
Yeah, even if you had one person come along to maybe show you a riff, you'd be like, no, that's embarrassing.
And I mean, that was...
But it's different now. Like, I don't even think, even with Georgia, who I manage, she's at least writing with one other person every time she writes a song. And that wasn't happening 2 years ago. But it's positive. I think there's better songs coming out of it because of it.
I'm going to agree, definitely in the right direction. I'm really curious to see more of the country. And I think one of the things I've come here for as Sounds Australia is to look at, we haven't exported to New Zealand. So I'm really here to see what are the opportunities potentially for Australians to get involved with going global, and the idea of us potentially bringing in a trade mission or Australian artists that could showcase one day and New Zealand artists the other, and look at that reciprocity, because I think, we've heard stories where people will encourage you to find a like-minded band and do swaps. But I think if there's opportunities for the infrastructure that exists, and that being some of these trade organisations that could help elevate that. So, one of the ideas we've had is coming in and looking at Wellington and Christchurch and Dunedin, and bringing some Australians in to learn about those markets, because it's not all Auckland, and it's not all Sydney, and it's not all Melbourne. There's incredible stuff coming out of Brisbane and Northern Territory and Perth, and even into regional areas. And I think holistically looking at the countries, and I think separately to that, there's still a lot of opportunities where I know Australia and New Zealand have very deliberately needed their own identities when exporting, but I think together we could really set ourselves up as leaders in an Asia-Pacific sense, and looking at the international community, looking at this region, and having our two nations really, certainly with the bedrock of our First Nations people, leading in that realm as well. So I think there's, what's exciting is there's a lot of opportunity that we haven't really touched on, and I think it's only the beginning, and seeing what New Zealand's doing is incredibly inspiring. So, but I'd like to see more between our countries.
Would you do a bungee jump?
Would I?
Yeah.
What has that got to do with anything?
You've got to go to
want to get around New Zealand?
I'll come back to you on that one.
Queenstown, skydiving.
I'll do it with you, Millie.
Okay.
I think
commitment.
Yeah.
We were just having this conversation about how people in Australia travel to Perth for tours, and we should just be doing 3 cities in New Zealand or doing an East Coast tour and integrating that so much more, so people leave, singing everyone's praises here, because it's so hard to not do that. Like, you come here, it's just everyone's so warm and nice, and the more we see that, the better it's going to be for taking that away and spreading it.
Would you do a bungee jump?
Maybe.
We've got 10 minutes left, guys. So I guess this is probably obviously the end of the conference, and last opportunity to fire any questions to these guys. So if anyone's got anything. Blake.
Hi. First, thank you guys so much for speaking. It's so interesting hearing you different perspectives on everything, and it's been super valuable the last 2 days to get all this new information and kind of a fresh inspiration to go out and keep pursuing what we're doing. My question is, what do you perceive to be the biggest obstacles for new artists in this sort of day and age, and how can people go about mitigating those obstacles, I guess.
I'll just quickly after for the streaming people. The question was, what do you see as the biggest? What was the word you used? Obstacles for new artists.
I think, honestly, putting too much power in gatekeepers' hands and revolving everything, like revolving all success around someone else's decision. Because everybody that you're wanting the support from is looking for people who are doing it without your support, or without their support, sorry. So finding ways to navigate it and make it happen yourself and just direct to fans and finding your audience and stuff, because as soon as you have that, everything else falls into place. And I just think so many times people are like, oh, it's not getting played on the radio. Oh, it's not getting heaps of playlisted, whatever. Like, if you can connect live or you can build your audience and you actually have a community, that's the number one thing that you need. So I think not relying on gatekeepers.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I think in that lies the principle of tripling down on your strengths. Look where you've got energy, look where you've got magnetism, and make more of that. Don't think of it like, oh, I've got to even everything out. No, double down, triple down. You know, if you have a great live following, stay there, maximise that. You know, don't worry about streaming, don't worry about radio. Maximise that experience for people coming to see your show. Likewise, if you've got great streaming, up the amount of songs you're putting out, keep it going. You know what I mean? Keep the attention going, and then you know other things will come to you. You know. And you know, if you've got radio, maybe you need to build a personal connection with people, because a lot of times you get an artist that's popular, people like their songs, but they're not necessarily invested in the artist themselves. So whatever it is, just try and go for it. Like whatever, wherever you're getting magnetism.
Yeah, become a magnet.
Yeah,
there you go. Find your angels and become a magnet.
Yeah,
and you also you cannot do everything at once, and I think there's a lot of pressure to do it all. Like do this, you need to really try and break it off into, you know, edible pieces and kind of really looking at what's achievable and managing those expectations, because it's really easy with all this access to data and using it for your own analytics and using it to find out where your audiences are. You're more than likely looking at who everyone else's is as well. And you're constantly looking over your shoulder and you're looking to the side. Is another artist doing better? Where are they? And I think in years past, you didn't know that. You know, you obviously knew who got on radio, but you really didn't know where people's fans were. And I think some of that's really hard because it just messes with your head. So I think as much as you can, just try and really just break it off and really just setting those little goals and just reaching them, and then the next step and the next step, and trying to build that team as you go. Like, you literally can't do it all, and if you try, you will fail. Like, so I think it's just trying to be really honest and those expectations really manageable.
That was exactly what I was going to say. Dream big, manageable goals. Yeah, smaller goals. When I moved to New York City, my best friend had moved there a couple years before, and I moved and I was like, how do you do this? It's massive. How do you know where anything is? And she said, oh, I don't know where everything is. I figured out what was on my block first. Then I figured out what was around the corner. Then I figured out what was was in my neighborhood.
That's
I found everything around me, and then I continued to grow outward and outward. That's how you create those manageable goals. Doesn't mean that you can't dream big. Of course, absolutely, write all those things down, like manifest destiny, absolutely. But I think you just have to, it's another way to stay positive as well, right? Check something off the list, like make something happen, have a backyard party, invite your cousins and aunts and uncles. And
I feel like you would totally do a bungee jump.
Actually, when you hadn't asked me, I said no.
Would you say no?
No, absolutely no. It's like 1,000% no.
No,
very
go.
sorry, but I've
I'm just trying to get a guy
it.
global in Queenstown.
It's definitely not a maybe. It's a no.
All right, a couple more questions. Hello.
Just to follow on from what Blake said, thank you for coming and talking to us. It's really, I'm really grateful. As an artist, you definitely said that we don't have the capacity to do everything all ourselves, and it's like being honest. I can't manage social media and myself and the bookings, blah, 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 etc. So how would an artist who feels like they've gotten to a point where they actually can't do anything more than themselves, how would they approach asking a manager to manage them? Or do we wait and like
wait for someone to come approach us? How does that work?
Yeah, just for the stream. So the question is, as a new artist, how do you approach people to perhaps try and build your team? So first of all, how would you approach someone about being a manager? And is that important to approach, or do you wait until they come to you?
I often tell people, like, if someone has asked me for help with management or just advice or something, usually people ask when they don't need it. Like, there's actually not anything to manage. So by the time there is, usually you'll have plenty of people chasing you for, you know, the opportunity to do it. And it's just kind of one of those things where you attract them, and then at least you're in a good position to assess which decision you go with and stuff. But that's not necessarily the right answer. That's just what my like gut tells me to tell people about. Just, I don't know. It's like anything, like trying to get a label deal. If you're sending stuff to labels for, you know, months on end and not hearing back, just work on the music. It's kind of the same as if you're an artist that's self-managed. Everyone doesn't want to miss out on the next big thing, you know, so you will attract them if your, you know, strategy is right and everything.
Yeah, I think, well, there's one of the things I would say is make sure that you can attract management. And there's a couple of things that go into that. One of them would be, well, making sure that you're okay with having a relationship with someone in your perhaps your creative process, but certainly your business. You know, that if you want to call the shots on absolutely everything and not involve someone, that's particularly if you're not making money or are viable in terms of finances, that's a very hard place for someone to just be essentially a gopher. And the good managers won't do that. But I think it's I do think it comes back to the music. And then I think the music's the big thing, right? If you're looking at an act, the music gets you interested. It says, okay, I'm keen for a conversation. But past that music, it's actually about the relationship and the people. And, you know, I'm quite happy with artists, looking at it from a management perspective, to remain a fan. And oftentimes that's the better way. Because you kind of, you know, you can kind of get a sense of people, and you kind of get a sense, because when you're a manager, you're inviting an artist into your life, and how that artist relates to you is going to be your reality, right? And so I suppose I think of that relationship, I look at it as, would this artist call me at 3 a.m, and what would that be about? And would that be, it's
Kanye wanting African drums.
It's Kanye wanting African drums. And that's a great point in certain contexts, right? It's Kanye wanting African drums. And I think there's a certain point in a career when you're coming up where perhaps the call at 3 a.m. for a need for African drums is exciting and it's part of the thing. But there's another point.
Or the bag's so big you can't.
Yeah, exactly. But there's another point in your life where it's just like, I just can't do this. And so your relationship with a manager is really important. So treating people well is vital, you know.
Also, it kind of just goes back to what Amy was saying about you don't need to know the manager, you know, like you don't need to know who books Coachella. You just need to find your peers in your community, everyone kind of on a similar field, because that cultivates everything, you know, like your friend that makes, you know, slightly similar sort of genre you might play shows with, they might find a manager first, and that manager might have a wider team. Maybe one of those is interested. Just like being able to set yourself up for those opportunities via community, I think.
Great. Hey, thanks everyone. We are out of time, but thank you so much to the panel. Round of applause, please, for these lovely people. So before we leave, I'm just going to pass it over to Kath Anderson, and she's going to talk to you about the speed networking. Yes. See you at Wine Cellar and Whammy and Whammy Back Bar tonight.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. Kia ora, thank you again, panel. Right. So the next bit is going to be a little bit of organised chaos. What is going to happen is our international speakers, these lovely people here, Shay Pope, Poppy Reid, Maria Amato from Air. You want to know what an Australian label does? Who works in your genre? This is your lady right here. They are going to be coming into the room. They're going to sit on the red cushions around the side. There'll be one chair in front of each of them. All the other chairs are going to be cleared out of the room. So it's just